Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm glad to be with you again. And my exhortation this afternoon is entitled The Value and Purpose of Complete Identification with Jesus and His Church. We need to discover the value and the purpose of it. Very important, and it's a time for us to discover that. A lot of things in our life the Lord will remove and do a mighty work. And other things that we are missing, He will add up to our life. So the Lord has taught us so that we may discover. It's a time to discover this value and this purpose of complete identification to Him and the church. And it's by faith that we will be able to identify fully. We need faith. Our understanding can't cope, can't see, but we need faith. And the Lord has given us this gift. And faith will grow. Faith is growing during that time so that we may see more the value of this identification. And likewise, faith will allow us to see the value of that identification and the purpose of our commitment. In Hebrews chapter 11, we will use that as a passage so that we can read 6 verses. The first 3 verses speaks about Moses seeing the value. We can see the value of identifying to God and His plan. And the other 3, it shows the purpose of that identification that Moses has been able to fulfill. So we read, by faith Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of the Pharaoh's daughter. So we can see that somewhere he has become great. He had an importance, he was popular. And in that state that he was, God is asking him something totally different. And to identify with God and His people. So there are things that he had to refuse in order to enter that plan. And to refuse, he had to see the value of it. So God allowed him to see. And I believe the Lord is allowing us to see now the value of the work He wants to do in us and for what purpose. See, my brothers and sisters, there are things in our life that we have known, that we have done, that has brought much importance in us, that may put us on top, like Moses. He knew and could do many things, and he was looked up to, and maybe we have been in that kind of place where things had made up important, and that we love to lose in order to identify fully with Jesus and His plan. So we are trusting God to bring down these things that has kept us very high, knowing everything, being able to do everything, but to come to nothing. Jesus has come to nothing when He came down on this earth for us. So we can see that it's that time. Let's refuse our identity with the world, brothers and sisters, with the spirit that reigns in the world. Should no more dominate on our life. Paul says in Galatians 6:14 that the world is dead to him and is dead to the world. Dead means it's finished, because when we are dead, there's no more life at all. So there's a work that is coming for us to refuse that the world be dead to us, and us as well will be dead to the world. And that's what happened in the life of Moses, so that he could step in what God was asking him of him. So we see that he chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a short time. The things of this world is just for a short time. But the plan of God is forever, my brother, my sister. Let's commit our life to discover now the value of this plan. Let faith bring us to see so that we may commit ourselves in the short time to come now after confinement. So, by faith we can say that Moses interrupted a carnal race in order to commit himself in a spiritual one. And that's our challenge now for us. Maybe we'll be persecuted in the days to come. Let us be prepared for that. If we want a full identification with Christ and His church, these things, we can expect them to be ahead of us. So, it says in verse 26, he regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. So there is something to discover again now. First was the mistreating. Secondly was the disgrace. When we identify with Christ, it's like a shame. It's a disgrace. But we can see that Jesus, when he left the Father and took a body like us physically, it was a disgrace because it was a humiliating. A body that is limited and above all that have known sin. So even if he didn't know sin, but he dwelt in a body like that was disgrace. And even more, the disgrace was on the cross, when he had to take all our shame and our sin, our condemnation. So he came from glory to shame and disgrace. And us, he took our shame and disgrace so that we can find his glory now in the days to come. What a powerful work. So why would we want to stick and stay with things that are shameful and is a disgrace according to the world, in the natural? Let's take the disgrace in the spirit. Let's see what it costs us. Maybe for the world, what we are living is a disgrace. But for us, we have discovered that it's a value. That's what we need to discover now. So that our commitment by faith will take us really further to serve Jesus till He comes in the way He wants. So we can see that he discovered that value and he identified with the people of God in their state. For him, that was the greatest treasure. What is our treasure today? What are the things that we are finding that are worthy for us? For him, this disgrace, this mistreatment was much greater riches. Let's discover that now. That's a state of heart, it's an attitude that the Lord wants to bring in us. So in verse 27, he says, by faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered. In French, he said he stood firm. That means it stood in faith. Now you are in faith during confinement. And the Lord wants to establish you so that you can see further that in the days to come, you will be able to persevere, to stand firm in this difficult time. And Jesus may use you and I to do what he wants. So he stood firm to do that plan for God. He discovered things. The value now is committing himself, verse 27, to fulfill the purpose of that identification. And he says, he persevered and he saw him who is invisible. So, our God is invisible now. His plan is invisible, but faith is there for us to see what is in the invisible. What can you see now during that time? What is going to become visible in the days to come from God's part? Okay? By faith we have left Egypt, the world, when we got saved. The spirit of the world will leave us now, and we must allow this work to be done now. Okay? Because we will have to go back to this world in order to bring life to the people that are in need. Faith was allowing him, Moses, to see above natural things. And that's what we need to seek to the Lord and pray. Lord, bring me to see really your plan. I want to take full part in that plan in the days to come. To see the invisible that are invisible to our natural eye, but becomes visible in the spirit. The way God is going to use us after this confinement. How do we see that? Verse 28. By faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger, and he persevered. We have read that, sorry. But in verse 28, he says, by faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. You see, Moses, he has brought the people of God with him in that plan, in that vision, and brought them to identify with God through Passover. And that's what we need to do. Now that we are saved and we have ourselves known the Passover, if we can say, the death of Christ in our life and his sufferings, we will have to bring many others. We'll have to bring many others, bring many Christians to see, even in the church, the value of that death for their life. That's why we partake to the table of the Lord. It's just to remind us of that Passover, of that death and resurrection, and what he did on the cross for us. To bring Christian to be restored. Many Christian needs to be restored into that revelation. God is going to use us. And to bring protection to the destroyer. The angel that would destroy speaks about the just judgment coming on earth. So we've got a part in saving many from this judgment, even Christians. Verse 29 says, by faith the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. Okay? So by faith we will bring many sinners to cross the Red Sea in the Spirit and bring them on the other side so that they may receive salvation and be delivered from Egypt and from Pharaoh that represents the devil himself. So we can rejoice, my brother and sister, that this confinement is part of God's plan to refine us, prepare us, and to lead us to build his church in the days to come. It's very exciting. So that's my encouragement to you, and I thank the Lord that he has allowed us to be able to share during that time and of what he's wanting to do and what he will do in the future. God bless you. I love you.